Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake commentary. So, after you complete the minimum required number of side quests, when you walk back toward the orphanage, which unfortunately is where we need to go for the next side quest anyway, so there's no avoiding this at the moment, you get some automatic NPC dialogue indicating that Rude has headed toward Aerith's place, and it's
which you can let him do. You can just go do the rest of the side quests if you want. Rude will just be standing there for another hour or two, tapping his foot, looking at his wristwatch, like, where are they?
Yep. So, I saw some Shinra suit walking towards her house a little while ago. Oh no.
It was a really fancy suit.
Also, they made this chocobo thing out of the flowers you brought, but I'm pretty sure, like, not many of those flowers are the ones I actually picked while I was in the garden.
Wait, does Aerith's mom die?
No.
No.
No? Okay.
No, she lives.
Aerith's mom doesn't play much of a part in the original game.
Wait, you're talking about her original mom, or?
Yeah.
Aerith's mom doesn't play that much of a part in the original game. She is basically just a convenient place to leave Marlene, and she gets taken hostage by Reeve midway through the game, but they never actually put them in any real danger because it's Reeve, and he's actually a pretty decent guy.
You know, as good of a person you can be if you kidnap someone.
He did the bare minimum of what was required of him as the spy on the team, and he got the key of the ancients from you, and then you went to the dungeon, and that was the last time you ever heard of that. But you see Marlene during the ending FMV looking out a window. So it's implied that Elmira is with her, but you never see Elmira again. You never see her again directly. It's interesting because they never actually wrote the scene where, after Aerith's death, you go and talk to her mother and tell her that she died.
Don't take it personal.
So, I always thought that was a weird thing to leave out.
You Turks are all the same.
Well, it's time to fight Rude now. It's interesting that we get a boss fight against both of these guys, pretty much back to back. But good establisher.
Well, it's a good idea to fight them one-on-one before you have the expected team-up battle later.
Oh yeah. And god damn it, but the team-up battle on the way up to Shinra Tower,
Yeah.
that is a good one.
That can get pretty intense, yeah.
It's good that they, like, the Turks are one of the things that they handle really well in the remake, both narratively and mechanically, in terms of game design and the escalating difficulty of the boss encounters that you have with them. They make for some really good rival fights, insofar as you can have rival fights that don't involve Sephiroth anyway. Also, watching him bounce around as Aerith double casts fireballs at him is fun.
I think my
Rude's
favorite
reaction to magic is great.
No, I think my favorite is someone made a GIF with Cloud fighting Rude with the bat. So he swings a home run, sends Rude flying, as Aerith sends a magic spell and bounces him right back at Cloud.
As he's winding up for the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you're playing pitch.
Yeah.
with
With
Rude.
Rude. Good idea. Playing catch with Rude. Bad idea. Playing catch with the Rude.
So yeah, this battle has an interesting mechanic where every time
you broke his glasses. This is edgy time.
He has.
He's got spares.
This is a good gag.
Yeah. So this is from Advent Children. They did this in Advent Children. I'm glad they called back to it.
What, that he keeps extra glasses underneath?
He keeps sunglasses
Yes.
for when the ones he's wearing inevitably break.
That's a SpongeBob
Power
joke.
Wave.
Yeah.
That's in the SpongeBob movie when Dennis takes off his glasses to look at it closely, and there's another pair of glasses underneath.
It is good that they at least, like, thought about what worked in Advent Children and in the compilation and maintained those little elements. Because in this style, you need a lot of that. You need to work off of that to try and get down the fine detail that like, yeah, okay, it's fine to talk about being loyal to the source material. And there were definitely points of concern for that, most notably Cloud's actual personality, and the danger of him ending up as just a mopey, emo, nothing person. Which I think
Power away.
Which I will argue made sense in the context of Advent Children.
Yes. But it sort of became his
But-
default personality in everything he appeared in
Yes.
after, most notably Kingdom Hearts.
Which doesn't make sense.
So, yeah, that was a point of concern, and it's really good that the concern wound up not being something that we needed to be concerned about. But for other things, like Rude here, who didn't have much to go on in the original source material, it's good that they were willing to look at other parts of the Final Fantasy VII franchise and draw from that. And
Power geyser.
I mean,
Ow.
personally, I also prefer if they don't just especially for remakes and stuff like this. I personally prefer when they don't just pretend that the part of the franchise that they don't like didn't happen. I mean, granted, I understand why it happens in some instances.
It depends on if the thing that wasn't liked was part of the original in the first place, or if it was like a sequel thing
Well, I mean,
that
it's
you
just
can
like
still ignore.
even still, just small things.
Damn
I
it.
think, are
Power
nice to bring up from time to time. Like, for example, nobody really liked the prequels for Star Wars. I feel like that's not a controversial statement. But with that said, even in the new the sequel series, they still like reference some stuff in the prequels. They say characters' names and stuff like that, and they don't like act as if the prequels never happened. They just choose to. And they throw a bone for the few people who like those kinds of things. It's just that they don't make it a focus point.
I think it's a bit of an oversimplification to say that nobody likes the prequels. Nobody likes the prequel movies as movies very much. Well, not nobody, but not very many people like the movies as movies. Specifically, as cinematic productions, they don't. There is a lot of material within those movies that works conceptually, if not narratively. And you can see it work narratively in other things that happen at the same time in the extended universe, like Clone Wars, for example, which has a lot of good stories in it, and arguably does Anakin Skywalker and his transformation into Darth Vader better than the movies do. Like, there's a lot of filler episodes in that series that don't necessarily matter and might not interest you, but at the same time, there's also a lot of really good episodes that work well with the arc of the story. Now, talking about what's happening on screen at the moment, remember when, before the fight started, they asked Rude to go away and he says, "You know I can't do that"?
You know I can't do that.
Yeah. She says the same line back to him with this smile on her
This
face. And he looks really gobsmacked, and before he can think of a comeback or a response, the helicopter yanks him away, and he's just gesturing with his hand like he wants to say something. It's
Final Fantasy VII and the audacity of this bitch.
That was perfect. You don't need wacky facial expressions and wild arm gestures to be funny. You don't need any of that anime bullshit. You just need good comedic timing and the right facial expression at the right time. And this, I'm so happy that they did it this way, that they directed the cutscenes and the dialogue the way that they did in this game. Because I think the thing that I was most worried about above all else when they were remaking this game was that the story would get lost under a lot of tropey anime nonsense, which is pretty much what happened with Final Fantasy XIII. Like, instead of taking the screen time that they had to develop the characters' personalities and backgrounds and their the subtler aspects of their psychology and how that affects their response to what's going on and being fugitives as l'Cie, they have Snow talk about being a hero a bunch, and they have Hope yell a lot, and Vanille is the cute, peppy girl, and that's her only personality trait, and
It seems like they had better writers in general. Like, or maybe it's just a matter of tone and what the expectation is. Because, I mean, like, I feel like the way that you dress up the game kind of sets the expectation for how you want the characters to act. And, like, not that Final Fantasy isn't a fantasy game. Like, obviously, it's in the fucking title. But the art style in general, I think, especially the 3D games, leads you to expect stuff to be a little more subdued versus if you have something that looks like a Tales of game.
oh yeah,
Then the anime kind of style of writing and characters fits in a little bit better, and you're more likely to appreciate and enjoy it because that's the kind of game you signed up for. Does that make sense? Because
It kinda
if
does,
you're
yeah.
watching Sailor Moon, you're okay with the game, with it looking and being Sailor Moon because that's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's, I don't know, Law and Order, and then suddenly the detectives are swirling around and doing anime poses and transforming, like, you didn't want Sailor Moon, you wanted Law and Order.
well, that
so,
just sounds like Phoenix Wright, but
a little bit, yeah. Not gonna lie
that sounds
there.
like live action Phoenix Wright, which does exist.
Yeah.
But
And if you do want that, then you should watch live action Phoenix Wright because it's great.
We did a commentary on it.
Yeah.
Did a commentary on it before I actually played the games, and that was a mistake.
Yeah. Did it end up like changing your opinion of how you thought of the game at all, though? Or
What do you mean?
like did the
I think
experience of
he
having
just-
watched the movie first?
I think he
do
just
anything?
means that he didn't get a lot of the humor in the movie because
Yeah,
okay.
it was that specifically. Here's the thing, Ted. When I first played Ace Attorney, I didn't even think about
there's
it.
there's a live action Yakuza movie, and it's pretty much the same kind of deal, where it's a live action movie that does a lot of the same things the games do. And it makes a lot more sense if you've played the games and
There's
exposed
something
yourself
very
to that.
odd about the term live action Yakuza.
Yeah, as if the Yakuza aren't a thing in the real
Well,
world.
I could call it Like a Dragon, but half the audience wouldn't get that. Goddamn regional title changes. Like a Dragon works better as a title too. And you know what the best part is? Yakuza 7 is doing the same goddamn thing Resident Evil 7 did, and just attaching the Japanese title as a subtitle to the English title. So, like Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, we are getting Yakuza Like a Dragon.
What's it called in Japan, though?
No, it's called Like a Dragon.
Oh, but I mean, like, what is Yakuza? Oh, so it's just called Yakuza 7?
Yeah, like it's that's why I brought Resident Evil 7
They
specifically.
seem to have dropped the number from the title in the West, but that makes sense because it's a game that it's shifting from action combat to turn-based combat, which makes more sense for the series than you would think. But
I still like that the reason why he did that was that so many JRPGs were forced to have action spin-offs that he wanted action fans to feel the same kind of pain. Like, I don't know, the spite in that I can get behind a little bit.
I can too. At the same time, I'm interested in Yakuza being translated into that kind of style. And it's not like we've had a drought of action style Yakuza games. We even had a
Yeah, no,
spin-off.
there's been a new one every year for the past decade.
We even had a very recent spin-off that is basically just Yakuza 6, but more of it. So,
Yeah, so especially, I think, we've learned this from Metroid. People are okay with spin-offs as long as it feels like the main series isn't disappearing.
Yeah.
although in this case, the spin-off continued the main series gameplay, and the main series game did what the spin-off probably should have done. It's a little odd.
That's the RPG one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Dragon Quest. Actual line of dialogue from the game.
Yeah, because I like they got Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, to consult on it, which I also find really funny. But it's okay because no, it's ripping off Persona, guys. It's ripping off Persona. See, look, it's got turn-based menus. Persona has turn-based menus. It's ripping off Persona. I can't believe this.
Also, like, it's amusing to me that since they finally introduced party-based combat to Yakuza, you get all these random-ass characters to play with, that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to play with while it was an action game. So you might have this office worker-looking woman doing crazy heat action attacks and completely demolishing the opposition because she's a party member now, which is the kind of thing that you wouldn't see very often in previous games. So I'm looking forward to the potential zaniness that having those multiple characters showing up in battle can bring to the table. I get the feeling that Yakuza 7 is aiming for a more humorous tone overall than previous games, which is saying something, because by God, Yakuza can get wacky at times.
Yeah, I'm guessing that but that's all like side quests and stuff where you like go bowling and win a chicken friend, or
And sing
like,
Baka Mitai.
and like go to the strip club and then make friends with the strippers and stuff. Like I always got the impression that Yakuza was silly during the side bits and more serious during the main story.
Not the strip club, the hostess club, which is
Okay.
I mean, Western audiences are like, what's a hostess club? And then the same thing. You're paying for company. You're just paying to sit and talk and spend more money on drinks at a table, and that's the extent of it. So it's like you're paying for casual dates, basically. It's bizarre.
It's, I think, one of those cultural things that probably just does not shift.
It doesn't,
over.
which is why they cut it out of the first Western release of Yakuza 3. They didn't think we would get it. They thought we would mistake it for something way more adult. But, well, then Yakuza 4 happened, and it was so integral to one of the characters' plots that they couldn't cut it out if they wanted to. You'd have to cut out like a quarter of the game to get rid of it, because one of the characters runs and manages a hostess club, and a plot-critical character winds up working for him, and that's how the mechanic is introduced to you.
You know, it's gotta be weird. What do they call, like, their normal-ass soldiers in the Final Fantasy VII universe?
Grunts.
Grunts? Like, really? Like, it's like, oh man, Mom, I'm doing great. I make so much money as a Shinra grunt.
In the original game, I think they were called MPs, which is short for military police.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I think, like, this might have been lost in translation, because the Japanese word for soldier is obviously not soldier, but the actual acronym soldier was probably the English word soldier.
I would say that there's a decent chance. Yes,
Yeah, which makes sense. Which makes sense when your story is written in the Japanese language, but then you switch over to English, and suddenly the parts that were written in English, you have to do something with them, and it's always awkward.
It is written in all caps, so what the hell does it mean?
In Persona 3, bringing that game up again, hey, Mitsuru is
Stop that.
academic and rich, and she's well-educated, so she speaks English from time to time. But then you translate the game to English. Oops, you can't do that anymore. So she speaks French in the English version. You know, fairly easy workaround there. A little bit unfortunate that the English dub got the French better than the Japanese version got the English, but what can you do?
I mean,
Unsurprising.
it was surprisingly like fitting because I played that game like right after I got out of high school, like a year or so after, and there were definitely the snooty kids who thought they were good at other languages that would just randomly pepper in the other language that they were speaking in from time to time, and it's just like, yeah, you're that guy, aren't you? And it's exactly the way she does it.
I'm having flashbacks to my early days reading fan fiction, and all the people who this is less popular nowadays because I feel like people have gotten older and they're not doing it as often. But you know, how if they're doing a fanfic on an anime series or something, they'll have characters talking random Japanese words in the middle of a sentence because they think they're being faithful to the source material. I'm sorry, but Japanese people do not say the word kami the way English people say the word God.
Yeah, people don't go like, "Oh, kami, damn it." I think that since we
It's almost like you just caught Kami pissing on the floor.
It does, doesn't it?
do you name your
Kami,
dog
damn it.
Kami? Oh, Kami, damn it.
Damn it.
So, okay. But it always amuses me how bad the English is in Japanese anime stuff. Like, okay, last week I was watching the second season of SAO Alicization, and there's no dub for that yet, so I had to watch it in Japanese. There's this moment, well, not a moment, there's this part toward the second half where the bad guys pull a tricky thing and, post online that, hey, we're beta testing this game, and these Japanese players are
I know the episode you're
crashing
talking
our
about.
server, and we need you to help us get rid of them. And they pull in a bunch of American players to Underworld, and they tell them all it's a PvP game they're beta testing. So these American players playing as red armored soldiers, they pop up and they're like, "Oh, this game sucks," except they say it more like, "This game sucks." And it's like they're supposed to be
Yeah.
American, but they sound like they... What?
Well, that's because they didn't want to get an English speaker to record the line, so they had a Japanese.
Well, the thing is, they
speaker.
do have. The thing is that they usually nowadays do have a few, Western people who are in Japan on call for, random English lines if they need them. So I don't know what happened there.
What happened there is that they didn't want to bother, so they just had whoever was in the studio record the throwaway line of dialogue.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
F Mega.
This was Sword Art Online, you said?
yeah,
Yes.
Sword Art Online. Season 4,
okay.
specifically. Which is a clusterfuck. I don't recommend watching Season 4.
Well, I mean, I haven't heard many people recommend watching Sword Art Online, period. But,
Well, yeah, the anime has... The novels have problems. The anime has the same problems, but worse. But yeah, someday I'll record Fatal Bullet or something and we can talk about that at length.
Is that long?
Sure.
Or you can talk about that at length.
Well, Lewis and I can talk about it at length.
Hey,
Okay.
John, you want to go get a pizza or something?
Well,
By all means.
Fatal Bullet is worth... Oh, fuck this boss fight. I forgot this one. Okay, so Hedgehog Pie King buffs the Hedgehog Pies. And when the Hedgehog Pies are buffed, they do this. They bounce on your head like they're fucking Mario. Which is ironic, considering that they're hedgehogs. But they just bounce around and multi-hit your characters, and every time they do, your character gets stunned so that they can't move or do anything. So you have to fight the Hedgehog Pie first. You cannot do the obvious thing and take out the ads. You have to go for the boss and let and try not to get hit by the Hedgehog Pies in the process, and it's really, really not fun.
Yeah, it's always, when it comes to these kinds of boss fights, it's always a crapshoot on whether or not you get rid of the big guy first or the small guys first, because it's different in every game which one you're supposed to do.
Most bosses that are like this, you generally
I
want...
usually go for the small guys first.
You generally want to go for the small guys first. Maybe if the boss respawns them, it might not be worth going after them. But in general, there aren't very many boss fights like this where the presence of the boss makes it harder to take down the little guys. So this is just a bit strange and unusual, and I really wish they would stop bouncing on my head. Stop bouncing on my head, please.
So you can't go back here and do these with a full party. You can revisit this section, but it's like time traveling backwards. You will only still have Aerith with you.
Yes,
if you do
once
that.
you beat the
Okay.
game, you get the chapter select, and the chapter select will revert you to that point in the story with the characters that are available at that point.
But they'll be higher leveled.
Yes, they will maintain the levels that they had.
Okay. So, all right. So, like, I was thinking if this is too hard, you could leave and come back later. And my thought is, oh, with more people, it might be easier, but you could also be 10 levels higher, and it would also be easier.
Yeah,
because-
well, I think that there are still virtual reality missions that bring enemies like those back, so you might have an opportunity to fight the same enemy again with a full party, but it won't be for this particular side quest. It'll
Wait,
be...
did they all make wooden Buster Swords?
Yeah, because they want to copy you.
Yeah, they did. It's adorable.
Also, it's still really weird that we've got this woman here who's wearing perfectly normal clothes. And, like, even Aerith's outfit looks kind of normal, if just a little
So-
more brightly colored. And then you got
Alright.
frickin' Cloud here with his...
So who's gonna tell Ted?
Cloud is, first of all, apart from the one metal pauldron, Cloud's outfit is actually a uniform. So, in that sense,
I mean,
it makes sense.
Why wear a turtleneck and then cut the sleeves off? I mean, dude, like, do you want to be warm or not? Come on. Get with the program.
Well, I'm not actually sure, now that I think about it. But it might just be a matter of wanting the shirt to cover the neck, but also not wanting to have the structural weakness in the fabric that buttons are. So,
I mean, I also have friends who, like, rip the sleeves off of their t-shirts for some reason, and I don't get it. I mean, I also just don't like being cold, so that's just me.
Also, in as far as keeping your body temperature regulated, covering the torso is more important than covering the arms, just in general, because more of the heat is there and your vitals are all in there and all of that. So, they might just want the freedom of movement that having no sleeves gives you, but they also want it to be something that will keep you moderately warm in adverse conditions, so who knows.
I let everyone know you guys can join the game. A special
Oh boy, the game in which we all just lost.
Then come to the hideout.
Oh, God damn it, Ryan.
That kid is carrying the nail bat, and the matron of the orphanage is okay with that, apparently. The kid literally has a bat with like 50 giant nails sticking out of it. Even if a kid swung that at you, it would be deadly. Come on.
He's just a real big fan of Dead Rising 2, I guess. I don't know.
The thing is taller than he is.
Do you get to have the nail bat in this game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
okay.
actually going to win it now, I think. It's one of the rewards for doing this particular minigame. The nail bat...
Oh my god, there is a Hall and an Oats. Oh my god. I didn't... I was joking earlier.
Wait, what? Who?
Hall and Oates, the musical group. They did... you know their music. They've done a million different songs.
No, I don't.
Name one show that you might
Maneater,
You're just in time.
Private Eyes,
No.
oh god, Rich Girl.
She's a man-eater.
Damn it, Lewis. You need to... Okay. We're gonna strap you in a chair and make you listen to the soft rock station for 6 hours, and you'll hear at least
I don't
3.
like much traditional music. I'm more of a soundtracks guy. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, anyway, they're famous enough for your mom to know who they are. I'll just put it that way. So yeah, they referenced Hall & Oates, which I never thought I would see in a Final Fantasy game, but here we are.
You'd be surprised how many Japanese people like Western musicians, though.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not surprised that they like their music, because Hall & Oates is
Music
great.
is universal.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, well,
it's-
what I'm saying is that because there are a lot of Japanese people who like Western performers, there are a lot of Japanese people who would recognize them if they referenced them. Certainly more than you would expect Americans to recognize Japanese performers. So,
Well, so Japanese,
JoJo.
yes, I agree with you, but I think that we're slowly getting to the point where people are getting more accepting of non-English music in the United States, because especially younger kids are, like, really into K-pop. So, like, I think, given 20 years, we might, maybe not 20, maybe 30 years, we might hear as much non-English music on the radio, or whatever the replacement for the radio is, as they hear English music compared to local music in other countries.
maybe.
But we'll see about
This
that.
is assuming they're even listening to the radio, though.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said whatever the replacement for radio is, because I doubt the actual radio as we know it is going to be the same 20, 30 years from now.
Anyway, this Kingdom Hearts ass-looking fucking side quest thing.
Oh, this is charming, I think, though, because the kids actually made it. So, like, looks like cobbled together and really silly. Like,
Yeah.
this is cute to me.
So, this fucking Kingdom Hearts ass-looking minigame, there's two versions of it. One that you can do now, and an additional harder version that doesn't appear until you come back to the Sector 5 slums before Shinra Tower. And you get up to 3 prizes based on how well you do. If you're good at it, like I am, you can get all 3 prizes in one pass. The key to success here is A, to know when to go after the big boxes, because the big boxes take longer to break, and to basically memorize where the red timer boxes are, because they add 10 seconds to your timer. And B, to know when to use which sword attacks on what boxes.
Can you limit break the boxes?
No, because there's nothing to damage
No,
you
you can
here,
use ATB abilities, but not limit break.
There's nothing to damage you here, so your limit break will never go up.
So you can't, but you can light the boxes on fire, is what you're telling me.
Infinity Zen and Triple Slash are really good for the 1500.
I mean, I think you could cast spells there, but it would be slow and not worth doing.
Oh, you set the boxes on fire. The kids will really hard on those.
In any case, yes, all 3 prizes get.
Woo woo.
Do characters not in your party get EXP while they're gone?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhat, yeah.
They do level up.
No, they should have leveled up with you.
That was true in the original game as well. I think like the characters would lag behind a certain number of levels, and then they would get dragged up with you.
Yeah, I think they do something similar here. It's not a 1-for-1 EXP share, but it's to keep them at least on par when you get them back.
I like it when RPGs do that, so you aren't punished
So do
for
I.
you aren't punished for not using a character because you don't know how they work, and then you get the boss in the 50th hour of the game who the one character who you haven't been using has the silver bullet ability for them, but they're like 20 levels behind you because you never use them.
God damn it, Baldur's Gate.
I think the worst example I can think of top of my head was Earthbound Beginnings. Granted, this is a really old NES game
Where they start at level 1 when you recruit them.
Yeah, when you're like 25 levels in.
Well, I mean,
here's the last character, go recruit.
to be fair, Final Fantasy IV did the same thing. And in fact, it even reset Cecil's level to level 1 when he became a paladin.
But Paladin Cecil at level 1 is as good, as not better, than Dark Knight Cecil than he was when you lost him. So,
Also, the character...
characters' levels that joined you are based on Cecil's level, so they're always guaranteed to be at least as strong as Cecil.
Oh yeah,
So
I thought
checkmate.
that it was just as simple as they kept on gaining EXP as you gained EXP.
Yeah, no, they are based off of Cecil's level.
Okay.
Huh.
When you recruit them.
Okay then.
All right.
Oh well,
Interesting.
I learned something new today.